In an increasingly connected world, we sometimes find ourselves feeling lonely even in a crowd. While society constantly emphasizes the importance of communication and relationships, not everyone feels comfortable being around others. Feelings of exhaustion, stress, or simply a lack of deep connection can make social interactions more of a burden than a joy. The question is, why does this happen? Could it be that sometimes we need quiet spaces to reconnect with ourselves? And is solitude in those moments a way to heal and recharge? 1. You are an introvert. Let me take a moment to talk about something that many of us experience but often struggle to express, being an introvert. Now, I'm not talking about avoiding people altogether. It's not about turning your back on society or rejecting human connection. No, it's about the simple fact that introverts find peace in solitude. For us, being alone isn't loneliness, it's freedom. It's that quiet space where we can just breathe and think without the noise of the world telling us who we should be. Think about it for a second. How often do you walk into a room full of people, and instead of feeling alive, you feel drained? It's like your energy just leaks out with every exchange. You find yourself caught in those small talk loops, where everyone's speaking but no one's truly connecting. You smile, nod, and maybe laugh at the right moments, but it feels empty, like you're giving away pieces of yourself for nothing in return. For introverts, that's the struggle, the desire for depth. We crave real conversations, the kind that go beyond surface-level chatter. But how often does that happen? Not often enough, right? It's like we're all rushing through interactions, jumping from one topic to the next without ever pausing to dive into anything meaningful. We want those rare moments of true understanding, the kind that leave us feeling full, not empty. And let's be honest, socializing feels like a transaction. Every time you engage, it feels like you're handing over parts of yourself just to keep the conversation going. In return, you get a polite smile, maybe some laughs, but very little real connection. So, over time, you start questioning whether it's worth it. It's not that we don't want to connect. It's just that the cost often doesn't match the value. But here's the thing, being an introvert doesn't mean you're antisocial or broken. It means you're deeply attuned to your inner world, and that's something to be honored. So, if you find peace in solitude, that's not a flaw, it's your strength. Your mind needs that space to roam freely, to dream, to process. Embrace it. After all, real connection starts from within. 2. Trust issues. Let's dive into something that many of us struggle with, even though it's rarely talked about, trust issues. Maybe you've been burned before. A close friend betrayed your confidence. A partner shattered your heart. Or even a family member who should have had your back let you down. It doesn't just sting, it changes the way you see the world. Suddenly, the idea of letting someone in feels risky, too risky. Trust, once broken, is like shattered glass. You can try to put it back together, but the cracks are still there, and you can feel them every time you interact with someone. That fear of being hurt again starts to build walls around your heart, walls that protect you, but also isolate you. It's a defense mechanism, isn't it? You pull away not because you don't want connection, but because you're scared of the pain that might follow. But let me tell you, rebuilding trust doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow, deliberate process. It's like planting seeds and watching them grow. It takes small moments, little gestures of kindness, and proving time and again that someone is worthy of your trust. It's not about rushing or forcing it, it's about feeling safe enough to open up again. There's also something to be said about learning to trust yourself. Often, after betrayal, we start questioning our own judgment, wondering how we couldn't see the red flags. But here's the truth, trust isn't just about others, it's about trusting your own ability to judge character, to recognize when it's time to let someone in and when it's time to walk away. So, if you're struggling with trust, take it one step at a time. It's okay to protect yourself, but also allow yourself the space to heal. Not everyone will betray you, and with patience and careful steps, you'll find people who prove that trust can be rebuilt, piece by piece. 3. Spending time with the wrong people. Let's talk about something that we've all experienced, spending time with the wrong people. You know the ones I'm talking about, the complainers, the constant talkers, the energy vampires who suck the life out of a room. It's like the moment they step into your space, everything shifts. Suddenly, socializing doesn't feel fun. It feels like work. You're drained, frustrated, and maybe even a little resentful. It's emotionally exhausting. I'm sure we've all been there. You're sitting with someone who talks endlessly about themselves without ever asking how you're doing. They monopolize the conversation, and you're left just nodding, feeling like your own thoughts are being drowned out. Or maybe it's the person who masks their insults with so-called compliments, leaving you questioning their true intentions. Over time, you start wondering, why do I keep putting myself through this? It's not just about toxic people, though. It's also about people who don't get you, people who push you into situations where you feel uncomfortable. Maybe it's the friend who insists on going to a loud, crowded bar when you'd rather enjoy a quiet cup of coffee, or the colleague who pressures you to attend office parties when all you want is to go home and unwind. It's not that they mean any harm, but over time, these interactions start to wear on you. You begin to associate socializing with frustration and discomfort. That's when solitude starts to look really good. Choosing to be alone isn't about rejecting people, it's about protecting your peace. You're not running away from social interactions, you're simply avoiding unnecessary emotional labor. Your well-being comes first. It's okay to say no, to prioritize the kind of people and interactions that lift you up instead of dragging you down. So, don't feel guilty about choosing solitude when you need it. You deserve to be around people who respect your space, your preferences, and your energy. Surround yourself with those who make you feel better, not worse. Because in the end, your time and energy are too valuable to waste on the wrong people. 4. Low self-esteem. Let's talk about something that affects so many of us, but we don't often admit, low self-esteem. It's that voice in your head that constantly tells you you're not enough. Not interesting enough, not worthy enough, not smart enough. And it's exhausting, isn't it? It's like walking into every social interaction feeling like you're under a spotlight, waiting to be judged, waiting for someone to see your flaws. You've probably been there. You sit at a table, surrounded by people, and instead of enjoying the moment, your mind is racing. Did I say something weird? Are they judging me? Did I laugh too loud? The anxiety can be overwhelming, and before you know it, every interaction becomes a potential minefield. You start second-guessing everything you say, worrying about every little detail. And that self-doubt doesn't just disappear, it builds and builds, making you pull back, isolate yourself, and avoid situations that trigger those feelings. It's a vicious cycle. The more you isolate, the more disconnected you feel, and the more disconnected you feel, the harder it is to break out of it. Socializing becomes something you dread instead of something to look forward to. It's not that you don't want to connect. It's just that the fear of rejection or judgment feels too heavy to carry. And that feeling, that fear, keeps you stuck. But here's the good news, this narrative isn't the truth. The world is not as judgmental as we often imagine. We tend to be our harshest critics, and what feels like a massive flaw to us often goes unnoticed by others. Most people are too busy worrying about their own insecurities to focus on yours. The trick is to start challenging those thoughts. Start small, take one step at a time. Let yourself be imperfect. Let yourself be seen, even if it's just a little bit at a time. Because, at the end of the day, the only opinion that really matters is your own. So, if you're struggling with low self-esteem, know that you're not alone. And know that it's possible to break free from this cycle. Take it one day at a time. Start by being kinder to yourself. Slowly, you'll start to realize that the world isn't judging you as harshly as you think. And once you believe that, you'll find yourself more open to connecting and socializing again. 5. Social anxiety. Let's take a moment to dive into something that feels almost universal for many of us: social anxiety. It's more than just feeling nervous before an event, it's a deep-rooted fear of judgment, of being misunderstood, or worse, rejected. The thought of walking into a room full of people, even those you know, can trigger that tightness in your chest, the sweaty palms, and a racing heart. And suddenly, something as simple as making small talk feels like climbing a mountain. Social anxiety often comes from past experiences, those awkward moments, the embarrassing things we said or did, or even the times we felt out of place. These memories stick with us, replaying over and over in our minds. What if they're judging me? What if I say something stupid? It's like a loop of self-doubt that grows with every social situation, making each interaction feel more overwhelming than the last. The thing is, these fears can isolate us, pushing us further into avoidance. We skip events, avoid social gatherings, and retreat into our comfort zones because the anxiety becomes too much to bear. But here's the catch: the more we avoid, the stronger the anxiety becomes. It's a cruel cycle. Every time we shy away, it gets harder to face the next interaction. But at some point, we need to recognize that avoiding social situations doesn't help, it just feeds the fear. Breaking free from social anxiety takes time, patience, and a whole lot of self-compassion. It's not about instantly becoming someone who's comfortable in any crowd. It's about taking small steps, like practicing one-on-one conversations, challenging negative thoughts, or showing up to an event and simply allowing yourself to be present, even if you don't speak much. Over time, you'll find that those small steps add up, and with each one, the fear lessens. So, if you struggle with social anxiety, be gentle with yourself. You're not broken. You're not alone. And every step you take, no matter how small, is a victory. The more you practice self-compassion and take those baby steps, the more you'll find yourself reconnecting, not just with others, but with your own confidence. 6. Emotional exhaustion. Let's talk about something that's often overlooked: emotional exhaustion. For some of us, social interactions aren't just tiring because of the conversations or the energy spent moving from one person to another. It's because we're constantly absorbing the emotions of everyone around us. We're like emotional sponges, taking on the stress, the joy, the anger, and the anxiety of others without even realizing how much it's draining us. Think about a time when you've been around someone who's upset or anxious. You might have tried to comfort them, but what happens next? Suddenly, their emotions seep into you. You start to feel their stress, their sadness, or their anxiety like it's your own. It's not just empathy, it's emotional labor. And if you're constantly surrounded by others' emotions, whether in family gatherings, work meetings, or social events, it can feel like you're running on empty. This kind of emotional labor doesn't get the same recognition as physical or mental work. But over time, it can build up, leading to burnout. You're giving so much of yourself to others' feelings that there's little left for you. The constant strain can leave you feeling worn out, detached, and like you're carrying a weight that you can't put down. This is when solitude becomes not just a choice, but a necessity. It's your way of recharging, of protecting your mental and emotional health. Taking time for yourself to simply be alone is a form of self-care. It's a space where you can let go of the emotional load and just breathe. Whether it's reading a book, going for a walk, or just sitting in silence, this time is essential for restoring balance and regaining the energy you've given away. It's not selfish to need this time, it's a healthy way to reset and reconnect with yourself. So, if you're feeling emotionally exhausted, it's okay to step back and prioritize your well-being. You don't have to always be on for others. By giving yourself the time and space to recharge, you're ensuring that you can show up for others when you're ready, fully present, and with a full heart. 7. Need for reflection and creativity. Let's explore the power of solitude for a moment. For many of us, being alone isn't just a break from the world, it's a necessary space where introspection and creativity can truly thrive. You see, in the quiet moments when the world isn't demanding our attention, our minds have the room to wander, to think, to dream. It's in these moments of solitude that some of our best ideas are born. Think about the times when you've been on your own, maybe while walking in nature or lying awake in bed at night. There's something special about those moments. Without the noise of constant conversation, social media, or the hustle of daily life, your mind can finally breathe. You might find yourself reflecting on an idea, a project, or a life decision. And suddenly, clarity appears. That solution to a problem you've been grappling with might just come to you in a quiet moment, out of nowhere. For many creative individuals, solitude is essential for personal growth and creative work. Artists, writers, musicians, they all know the importance of carving out time alone to connect with their craft. Creativity isn't something that can be rushed or forced in a noisy, crowded room. It needs space to unfold, and that space often comes in solitude. The quiet allows your thoughts to process, to sift through ideas, and to bring forth new and original ones without the constant pull of external distractions. It's also in solitude that we gain insight into ourselves. We reflect on our goals, our values, and our experiences. We take time to understand our emotions and figure out what truly matters to us. This introspection is where personal growth happens, where we learn, evolve, and become more aligned with who we truly are. So, if you ever find yourself seeking solitude, know that it's not a retreat from the world, it's an opportunity to reconnect with yourself and your creativity. Embrace these moments, because they're the foundation of some of your best work, your most profound insights, and your truest self. 8. Overstimulation from modern life. In today's world, we're constantly bombarded, by information, by noise, by social media. It's like we're living in a never-ending whirlwind of demands and distractions. Every time you pick up your phone, you're met with a flood of messages, notifications, and endless content. Your mind is continuously processing more than it can handle. The noise can get overwhelming, and before you know it, you're exhausted, mentally drained, and craving silence. This overstimulation has become a part of daily life. We've all experienced that feeling when you walk out of a meeting, scroll through social media, or even just hear the constant hum of traffic and chatter. It's like your senses are overloaded, and you can't find a moment to just pause and breathe. Our brains are working overtime, trying to keep up with all the stimuli, and it leaves us feeling scattered and unfocused. That's where solitude becomes a sanctuary. When the world is constantly pulling at us, stepping away from it all offers the peace and clarity we need. It's like hitting the reset button. Taking time alone allows you to step outside the noise, to retreat into a space where you can just be. Whether it's taking a walk in nature, sitting in a quiet room, or just disconnecting from the constant flow of information, solitude gives you the relief you need to recharge and reconnect with your thoughts. In those quiet moments, you find the space to process everything that's been thrown at you. Without the pressure of staying up to date with social media or the demands of other people, you can hear your own thoughts again. And it's in this silence that you can regain balance, make decisions with clarity, and reclaim your peace. So, if you find yourself feeling overwhelmed, it's okay to step back. Modern life is loud, and it's easy to get lost in the noise. Embrace solitude as your escape, your chance to rest, reflect, and recover from the overstimulation that surrounds us. After all, taking care of your mental and emotional health starts with giving yourself the space to just be. 9. Difficulty relating to others. Let's talk about something that many of us struggle with but might not always feel comfortable admitting: difficulty relating to others. It's not that we don't want to connect, it's just that sometimes, the connections we're offered don't quite fit. Not everyone shares the same interests, values, or way of looking at the world. And when you're surrounded by people who don't understand or align with your perspective, socializing can feel forced, awkward, or even draining. For some of us, it's the pressure to conform to mainstream ideas or societal expectations. Maybe you don't enjoy the same activities as others, or you don't share the same values, and that makes it harder to find common ground. It's frustrating when you feel like you're trying to fit into a mold that just doesn't feel right. You end up questioning, why does this feel so uncomfortable? Why do I feel out of place? That's when solitude can feel like a relief. When you're alone, you're not forced to pretend to be someone you're not. It's a space where you can truly connect with yourself, without the judgment or the pressure to fit in. In solitude, you can rediscover what you truly enjoy, what you value, and what brings you peace. It's a time to reflect, to embrace your individuality, and to regain your sense of self without the noise of others' expectations. In a world that often celebrates conformity, choosing solitude doesn't mean you're antisocial, it means you're honoring your true self. You're giving yourself permission to disconnect from what doesn't resonate with you and to reconnect with your inner world. And when you're ready, when you find people who truly understand you, socializing will feel more natural, more genuine, and more fulfilling. So, if you've ever felt disconnected or out of place, know that it's okay to choose solitude. It's not about avoiding people, it's about respecting yourself enough to wait for those authentic connections that will allow you to feel seen, heard, and understood. 10. Desire for control. Let's dive into something that many of us don't always recognize but feel deeply, the desire for control. In a world where everything seems chaotic and unpredictable, being alone offers a sense of stability. It's a chance to take back control of your time, your environment, and your actions. You're not subject to the demands or expectations of others. In solitude, you can set your own pace, make decisions without compromise, and create an atmosphere that suits your needs perfectly. Think about it, when you're alone, you don't have to answer to anyone. You don't need to consider someone else's preferences, moods, or the unpredictable flow of a group dynamic. You can choose how you spend your time, whether it's diving into a project you're passionate about, enjoying a quiet moment of reflection, or simply being in control of your surroundings. That freedom is priceless, especially for those who value independence and autonomy. Now, contrast that with social situations. They can be full of unpredictability, people talking over each other, decisions being made on the fly, and the pressure to adapt to everyone's moods or preferences. Social dynamics often require you to compromise your own needs for the sake of fitting in or keeping the peace. For those who deeply value their personal freedom, these situations can feel overwhelming. The constant juggling of other people's expectations and needs can create a sense of disorientation and stress. This is where solitude becomes a sanctuary. It's not about avoiding people or shutting them out, it's about protecting your need for control. When you're alone, you get to decide how you spend your energy and focus, and that can be incredibly empowering. Solitude allows you to recharge, to center yourself, and to regain the mental and emotional strength you need to face the unpredictable nature of social situations. So, if you find yourself seeking time alone, don't feel guilty about it. It's not a rejection of the world, it's a conscious choice to honor your need for control and balance. It's a way to protect your well-being and ensure that, when you do step into the world again, you do so with a sense of peace and autonomy. We can't deny that modern society, with its endless connections and constant demands, can leave us feeling drained. However, what's important is that we listen to and respect our own unique needs, especially when we require space for quiet reflection and creativity. Solitude is not an escape, but rather a tool to reconnect with ourselves, refresh our spirits, and build inner strength. Allow yourself to rest and let solitude become a place to recharge your energy and creativity. Don't be afraid of quiet moments, because it's from them that you will discover the most important parts of yourself. Act today and reclaim your strength through these solitary moments, where you can simply be yourself, without needing to be anyone else.